Public Bank, we're the one for you. Classic Lighting, Budget Marine Grenada, and Spicer Imaging Center.
Good evening and welcome again to Our Climate Reality, episode 3 of season 2. And this evening we're looking at financing for responding to climate change. Of course, we've been talking a lot about climate change. Those of you who followed us in season 1, it's so important to raise the awareness on such a critical issue. This evening we have two very special guests with us, and of course a little later on I will allow them to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what they do. As indicated last week, this season we are looking at what is and what can be done to respond to climate change. One of the critical requirements for responding to climate change is access to finance. Without finance, it is impossible to acquire the human and technical resources required to design and implement climate change responses. What is climate finance? Broadly speaking, climate finance relates to the money which needs to be spent on a whole range of activities which will contribute to slowing down climate change and which will help the world to reach the target of limiting global warming to an average increase of 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. To reach this goal, the world needs to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions to practically zero by 2050. The phrase net zero is also heard a lot in the context of financing climate action. Initiatives that must be financed to reach net zero include those which reduce emissions of harmful gases, as well as enhancing or protecting the natural solutions which capture those gases, like forests and oceans. The finance also aims to build the resilience of populations most affected by climate change and help them to adapt to changing climatic conditions, measures which in turn will help reduce warming. The finance exists, and so do the solutions to transition to what the UN calls a green economy. Renewable energy, which provides electricity without producing carbon dioxide and other forms of air pollution, is a crucial building block for empowering sustainable economic growth. Now, why is it important? With global temperature rising, along with changing weather patterns, sea level rise, increases in droughts and floods, and the world's most vulnerable population are facing ever-increasing risks, food insecurity, and have fewer chances to break out of poverty and build better lives. And does it make financial sense? Well, the real question is whether the world can afford not to invest in climate action. Communities in all parts of the world are already suffering from the financial effects of climate change, be it crop loss due to drought or major damage to infrastructure caused by flooding or other extreme weather. Tonight, we look at some of the sources of finance that are available for or to the national and the community levels and provide an insight into what is being done in Grenada to access those funds and how individuals, businesses, and communities can access these funds. Our guests tonight, whose work focuses on these matters, are based in the Ministry of Climate Resilience, the Environment, and Renewable Energy. And it is my pleasure to welcome them to tonight's program. What we'll do now is to take a short break. When we come back, This Week in Climate, and then we'll introduce our guest to you. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a moment.
Our environment is our responsibility. Budget Marine contributes by selling environmentally friendly products. For example, we sell lightweight open boats that require a relatively small engine. Best to combine with our Tohatsu 4-stroke engines. They use little fuel and have a low emission. Carib Marine solar panels are specially made to withstand the Caribbean climate. The panels are suitable for use at home and on the boat. The required chargers and converters are also available from Budget Marine. Keeping your car and boat clean extends the lifespan. But residues of the cleaning products disappear in nature. We at Budget Marine sell eco-friendly cleaning products from EcoWorks, not harmful to nature and also clean very well. Plastic junk in our oceans is a major problem. Fortunately, there are companies that clean up and reuse the plastic into usable products. Marlowe, manufacturer of lines and ropes, produces docking lines made out of plastic waste. Another company is Sperry Shoes. Sperry has a collection made from used fabrics and plastic waste. Just a few examples of how we at Budget Marine contribute to help protecting our environment. We care.
Solar Vision is the champion. We lighten up the whole Caribbean. Solar Vision is the champion. We lighten the whole Caribbean. The ultimate solution to get rid of pollution. We going green to be healthy. Going green for security. Going green for prosperity. Going green with Solar Vision. Going green.
Available at Grenada Trade Center, Montrouge, St. George. For more information, call 444-5291 or 404-9012.
As of October 2nd, 2023, the Hubbard's Rewards program will have some exciting new features to better serve you. Streamlined loyalty experience. That is, no more waiting for vouchers to be issued on a quarterly basis via traditional mail. Instant redemption. This means loyalty points earned can be redeemed immediately after purchase and applied towards your future cash purchases upon checking out. Check status. You can instantly review your reward points when checking out or on your printed receipt. Sign up today and start saving when you shop at any Hubbard's department, including the Food Fair and Grenadian General Insurance Company Limited. Please note that existing vouchers are still valid once not expired. Hubbard's. Quality service, affordable prices.
Welcome back everyone to our Climate Reality. In case you missed it, tonight we're speaking about financing for responding to climate change. At this time, our special feature, This Week in Climate, and of course it is brought to you by Dr. Cedric Van Meerbeek of the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology. This week we'll look at why climate services. This Week in Climate.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for having me on this great show. My name is Cedric Van Meerbeek. I'm a climatologist with the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology. Tonight, I want to introduce you to the world of climate services. Well, a climate service can be defined as the provision of climate information for use in decision-making. And in doing so, what we hope to achieve is to build resilience to hazards related to climate, such as, for instance, drought, such as episodes of heat waves, episodes of flooding, or a very active period in the hurricane season, and such hazards. But on the other hand, we also want to reap the benefits of actually being able to suggest that climate conditions will be beneficial for our activities. So let's take an example. Imagine that you meet Max. Max has moved to your country. And as he moved to your country, he went to live in the Deep Valley community, which we all know is prone to flooding, as the name suggests. But he might not know that in advance. And in the Deep Valley community, when he looks at what climate looks like usually, he finds out that flooding is a recurrent problem. And because that is the case, what he will do is make sure when he builds his home to build it on stilts. This kind of action is called adaptation. We're adapting to our climate, making sure that we're not hampered by hazards in our climate, but that we can also make use of opportunities arising by favorable climate conditions. For instance, go to the beach because we have sunny and warm weather. What kind of climate information do we need for that? Well, we need climate information on climate norms, long-term norms. So that means what does our climate usually look like nowadays, but also on trends. What do we expect to look like in the future? And that helps him to make decisions on how to build his house that is safe for his family to dwell in. But there may still be episodes when the flooding ends up being worse than it usually is. And that means that the stilts on which he built his house might not be tall enough to actually keep the house safe in the event of such flooding. What can Max do in such cases? Well, he can turn to weather forecasts and climate forecasts, where weather forecasts look at the next few days, climate forecasts might look at the next few weeks or months or even a year in advance. And if we expect that there's higher chance for such a deep flood event to occur, then he can prepare for such occasions and make sure that he can respond to the information on time and to ensure that his family is safe and that damage or loss is minimized. So this is climate information for preparedness and response. That is why persons like myself and persons in your Met Service are engaged in monitoring and forecasting climate conditions. And we do that really to help agriculturists and farmers to minimize the damage and the loss to their crops, for instance, because of flooding episodes or wilting in the heat, but also to minimize loss of livestock. Besides helping farmers and agriculturists, we also engage in helping water managers to anticipate potential concerns regarding the quantity of water that is available or water levels, let's say, in our reservoirs, but also the quality of the water to make sure it's safe, and thereby better manage water demand from multiple sectors. In addition to that, we also want to help health practitioners to estimate the effect of climate on diseases such as respiratory illness, for instance, COVID, gastrointestinal illness, vector-borne diseases, we all know about dengue nowadays, non-communicable diseases, and also well-being and mental health, because all of them can be impacted by climate events, climate conditions, and extremes. We also are mindful that in the Caribbean, of course, tourism is a major sector that helps our economies. And so we want to help tourism professionals, for instance, hoteliers, to map where and when climate conditions may, on the one hand, disrupt outdoor activities, but on the other hand, may attract more visitors to the Caribbean. And also we want to indicate, for instance, is there going to be more need for cooling through AC use in the upcoming season because we expect a lot of heat waves. We also want to help the energy sector to forecast the power demand and also better prepare for the amount of energy production that will be needed to suit the needs of society. So I hope this was beneficial for you to know why it is that climate service is such a big thing nowadays in national weather services and in regional bodies like the CIMH. Thank you very much, and keep in mind you can find some information on the latest climate conditions and what we forecast at the regional level on the website that is shown here. But more importantly, turn to your National Met Service to make sure you understand how your climate will evolve in the next few weeks and months. Thank you very much, and good night.
Thank you very much, Dr. Van Meerbeek. Very interesting. Why climate services? And of course, we understand the importance of being aware of what is happening as it relates to climate change. So, to our big moment, introduction of our guest. I waste no more time. They are both from the Ministry of Climate Resilience. And of course, we have with us Acting PS, Perrin Johnson, and Mr. Titus Antwine. I would ask them both to introduce themselves and tell us a little about what they do. Of course, we start with the lady herself. Yes, Johnson. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Godfrey, and thank you very much for having us here tonight. And may I also say good night to the listening public, both listening here in Grenada and those listening via the various social media throughout the diaspora. Thank you very much for having us here.
Yes, indeed. Can you tell us a little bit about what you involved in at the ministry? I mean, yes, you're the PS, but in terms of what happens there.
Okay, quickly. So definitely, you know that we are in the business of saving the earth, basically. Yes. So we are charged with the responsibility as it relates to climate change activities geared towards also the preservation of the environment. And when we speak of the environment, we speak both of land and sea, because you know we have a wider sea mass than land, and also we look at activities geared towards renewable energy, as we look at alternative ways for making, you know, most efficient use of energy throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique, and also serve in the capacity of the GEF focal point, GEF being the Global Environment Facility. So that is one of the responsibility I have been charged with. So for tonight's program, I will be speaking more on GEF and how we can access GEF financing in Grenada.
Thank you very much, PS Johnson. Mr. Antwine, tell us a bit about you and what you do.
Night, sir, and thanks for having me. As PS said, I'm happy to be here to support PS Johnson and the ministry. What I do, I'm charged primarily with giving the ministry support in the area of climate resilience. As the ministry name suggests, climate resilience, the environment, and renewable energy. We work along, all the colleagues, we work in each other's field, but primarily I'm charged with the area of resource mobility for climate resilience.
Thank you very much. And we are going to get right into a discussion. And of course, we're going to start with PS Johnson. PS Johnson, one of the sources of finance that Grenada works with is the Global Environment Facility, of course, commonly known as GEF. And of course, it provides financing for both at the national and community levels. Can you lead off the discussion by telling us about GEF? What is GEF? What kind of organization it is, what does it do, and how does Grenada interface with it, you know, and the like.
Okay. Well, GEF, affectionately called, is really the formal name is the Global Environmental Facility, and that facility basically serves as a financial mechanism which support various environmental conventions. Okay, it basically has a very unique governance structure whereby it is made up of an assembly, a council, it has a secretariat, and approximately 18 agencies also is being attached to that organization, and it also plays an advisory role, and there's also an evaluation role attached to the GEF. It basically serves to provide financing that will allow developing countries like Grenada to be able to meet the international environment conventions. And as we speak of conventions, GEF basically assist Grenada to meet the 5 different conventions, because Grenada has signed on to 5 conventions to which Jeff will provide support, namely the Convention on Biodiversity, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the Stockholm Convention, and the UN Convention to combat desertification, as well as the Minamata Convention. So these are the 5 conventions to which Grenada will get support via the GEF facility. Through GEF, there are several GEF agencies that are basically on the ground here in Grenada. Namely, we have the World Bank, we have UNDP, and we also have the United Nations Environment Program. So through that facility, Grenada can access resources that will allow the country to be able to finance intervention in the area of climate change, intervention in the area of renewable energy, intervention in the area of whatever environment, whether it means biodiversity, etc. So it's a wide range of programs that we have access to via the GEF facility, and we are hoping that we can take on a whole of society approach in accessing those resources. And when I say a whole of society approach, it simply means that government alone cannot do it.
That's true.
So we need to have civil society, NGOs, the private sector, and even community-based organizations and non-profit organizations, even schools can come aboard, and they can also access the various facilities that are available through the GEF financing.
Right. You mentioned quite a bit there. Very, very interesting. Some of these facilities, are we been able to access some of these facilities? Have we accessed any of it? And if any, which ones have we accessed thus far?
Yes, certainly. Through GEF, we have what we call the star allocation. So Grenada, through the GEF 8 program, we have already accessed $8 million of that. We also access, there is another facility that we access another $3 million. So to date, we have access about $11 million in new financing for our various programs, and that's just through the GEF facility. However, we also have 5 ongoing programs now. So what I just spoke of there, that's basically new monies that we have accessed in the recent past, and we have approximately 5 programs that are ongoing in the tune of approximately $6.5 million, and that's for national projects and programs. But in terms of other projects and programs that we have access to, we have a total of 22 of those programs, some of which are regional projects we are participating with, and those projects mass approximately $231 million. So I'm just saying that to say that the monies are available. We just need to be able to access those resources to allow us to be able to channel them into various climate-related projects, so that we can then, at the end of the day, have a greener economy.
Yeah. P.S., I want to put you on the spot. You talk about these millions, and my hairs are raising, and I'm wondering there if programs like this, any of these millions, can they come our direction to help with the awareness?
Well, certainly, and I'm happy that you're saying that, because some people think that when you have these monies, it's basically for infrastructure or so forth. The GEF resources, you also have an aspect of GEF, okay? Resources that can be placed into like institutional strengthening, awareness programs and projects. So like say, for example, if you want to take this program into the school, you can through a facility that Jeff also provide, and it's called the Country Assistant Program that is available for youth to not only do projects of a physical nature, but what I call soft projects, institutional strengthening, capacity building, and awareness also.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, P.S. Now, one of your programs is the Small Grants Program, and that provides support at the community level. Can you tell us a bit more about that program and what kinds of activities has it supported in the past, and how can someone get involved in that program?
Okay, so I would not want to steal anything from Mr. Antoine. Mr. Antoine has his area. He will be speaking about the small grant program. Yes, but that's also part of it. Yes.
So, well, Mr. Antoine, let me bring you in here.
Yes, sure. Thanks for that, P.S. Well, the Small Grants Program has been a very effective program, targeting the NGOs and the community-based organizations. There's a national office set up at the Ports Highway, where we have a national coordinator. We have supported notable agencies before, the New Law, the New Life Organization. We've supported GCNA, etc. We do a lot of interventions, as PS said, climate change and environmental type interventions, training, solarizing buildings, etc. And we find it to continue to be a very effective program for the community organizations. Once you're a community group out there, in operation, say a year or so, where we can investigate and see you are legitimate, you are free to apply to the Jeff Small Grants Program. In fact, there's a call out now for proposal. I think the window is open until, if my memory serves me right, until the 30th of November. You can get funding to the tune of up to the tune of $50,000 for your community program. Of course, your initiative may not require all that amount, but you can receive that. The community centers, etc., that we would have solarized, that the same community centers sometimes that are used for emergency shelters, etc. Right. Those are the kind of things that are the investment area in which we look at. So when you send a proposal, the secretariat there, the national the coordinator will review and correct it for accuracy in terms of the format, and then it goes on to the steering committee and the technical review of your proposal. And from time to time that window opens, and right now it is open for the community groups and the NGOs.
Right. So in terms of accessing that, you said you can apply. Let's talk a little bit about the application process. What does one have to actually do? Do you come into the office, or just talk a bit about that?
Well, it's always safe to call the office for the most updated guidance. They have a separate office from the ministry, so they work in relation to the ministry, but the Jeff Small Grants Program is a separate entity by itself. It's headquartered on as I said, on the Ports Highway. That's in the CSA, the Public Workers Building. The office is there. There's an application form that needs to be filled and submitted online. I wouldn't want to go through the entire application. No, I'll have to pull it up.
I just want to
but it is not a cumbersome. It's not a cumbersome. You go to the Facebook or so. You look at the offerings, or you call the office. You ask them to send you the form via email or so, or even just walk in and pick up and ask for a form. You once you understand the form, it's not difficult to follow. Let me see if I can get the contact information here for the Jeff Small Grant, basically you access via the instructions given on the application form. It is not, as I said, it's not a cumbersome process, and you will get assistance to fill out the application correctly.
Okay, wonderful. in terms of the future of some of this program, because of course, once we start talking climate change, and we know that the science has shown that the climate is changing, the globe is warming faster than anticipated. What's the future plans for your organization in terms of providing that kind of support? Because more and more, I mean, we just experienced almost a month of heat waves, and the temperatures, it's just starting to sort of, go down a little bit, but it can continue. So have all of these things been considered in terms of the future and financing?
No, as PS said, I mean, when you go into the international meetings, you make your case for what is needed. And the Jeff Small Grants Program has been around for a while. It's not only in Grenada. And they see it as an independent organization outside of government, right? That is dedicated specifically to the community and the NGOs. Because you don't want it to be affected, with politics, etc. It's non-political, it's independent. You can access the resources there, and time and time again, it is evaluated and it is found that it is effective and it's necessary. So it is continued. In fact, what you might see is an increase in the allocation to do community work as more and more as we assess the need for more activity at the community level.
Okay, wonderful indeed. So I tell you what, well, just before we take the break, I just want to go back to PS a little bit. You mentioned earlier that, of course, with the financing for developing countries, and you mentioned about Grenada, biodiversity, and also actions against desertification. We just had heat waves here. Is that something of concern? Because we are in the tropics and we can expect temperatures to continue to rise. Any special consideration given in that area?
Well, definitely anything that will allow us to be able to take on any adaptation measures or mitigation measures to allow us to be able to mitigate against those heat waves, we can get resources. So under the Jeff program, there's something called green cities. And the science has basically shown us the most trees and so that we have, that we plant, that we would be able to sort of go towards adaptation, mitigation, to make sure that we combat some of the challenges associated with climate change. So there are resources under Jeff financing for that. You call that one of the integrated programs. So that can be adopted through, it can be a national program, it can be a program that emerged from the community, and then we can say we want it to be duplicated in various communities across Grenada. So we can get up to the tune of $2 million for activities of that once it meets the Jeff sets, these Jeff criteria. And the good thing about these financing is for every $3 million that you are able to access, you get an additional $1 million. So let's say Grenada portfolio started off with $8 million, and we are able to get a project that what we say that is bankable, and we're able to identify a project of the magnitude of $3 million, then we can unlock an additional $1 million that can go to another initiative. So I'm just giving you a case in point of one of the programs that we can access in terms of that type of project.
Well, P.S., I really hope you guys are coming up with this project so we can access all of these funds. We need it. Folks, I tell you what, I have a lot more questions. We take a short break. When we come back, we'll be chatting some more with P.S. Johnson and, of course, Mr. Antoine. We'll be back in a moment.
Solar vision is is the champion. We lighten up the whole Caribbean. Solar Vision is the champion. We lighten the whole Caribbean. The ultimate solution to get rid of pollution. We going green to be healthy. Going green for security. Going green for prosperity. Going green with Solar Vision. We going green.
Available at Grenada Trade Center, Monrouge, St. George. For more information, call 444-5291 or 404-9012.
Our environment is our responsibility. Budget Marine contributes by selling environmentally friendly products. For example, we sell lightweight open boats that require a relatively small engine. Best to combine with our Tohatsu 4-stroke engines. They use little fuel and have a low emission. Carib Marine solar panels are specially made to withstand the Caribbean climate. The panels are suitable for use at home and on the boat. The required chargers and converters are also available from Budget Marine. Keeping your car and boat clean extends the lifespan. But residues of the cleaning products disappear in nature. We at Budget Marine sell eco-friendly cleaning products from EcoWorks, not harmful to nature and also clean very well. Plastic junk in our oceans is a major problem. Fortunately, there are companies that clean up and reuse the plastic into usable products. Marlowe, manufacturer of lines and ropes, produces docking lines made out of plastic waste. Another company is Sperry Shoes. Sperry has a collection made from used fabrics and plastic waste. Just a few examples of how we at Budget Marine contribute to help protecting our environment. We care.
As of October 2nd, 2023, the Hubbard's Rewards program will have some exciting new features to better serve you. Streamlined loyalty experience. That is, no more waiting for vouchers to be issued on a quarterly basis via traditional mail. Instant redemption. This means loyalty points earned can be redeemed immediately after purchase and applied towards your future cash purchases upon checking out. Check status. You can instantly review your reward points when checking out or on your printed receipt. Sign up today and start saving when you shop at any Hubbard's department, including the Food Fair and Grenadian General Insurance Company Limited. Please note that existing vouchers are still valid once not expired. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Welcome back, everyone. It's our Climate Reality. Our guest this evening, Acting PS Perrin Johnson of the Ministry of Climate Resilience, and Mr. Titus Antoine. He's also a senior officer in that ministry. Mr. Antoine, I'm going to come back to you. And of course, your work involves interacting also with the Green Climate Fund, also known as the GCF. It's one of the largest sources of climate change financing in the world. Let's talk a bit about that.
Yes, sure. Well, the Green Climate Fund, established in 2010, is in fact the largest source, multilateral fund dedicated to climate change. It was established by the UNFCCC and as a special fund that was created, it is capitalized by the developed countries, and it is there for the developing world to access. It is headquartered in South Korea, Incheon to be exact, and it comprises of a secretariat and a board of directors. Basically, the fund finances both adaptation and mitigation at a 50-50% ratio. And yeah, it's the main fund for climate finance.
Right. Do we have access to funds like that?
Oh yes, Grenada has been one of the first movers in the region to access the Green Climate Fund. We would have had a focal point, and then we went to establish a national designated authority in the Ministry of Finance some years ago. our strategy was to tap into every possible resource. It was very attractive financing, obviously, as small island developing states, and sometimes the fiscal space is not there to do the climate action that is required. The resources are not there to put into climate action. So accessing these funds is paramount in terms of a national strategy. So we did do a lot of dialogue with the Green Climate Fund, and we were very successful, I must say, in accessing the fund very early when it became operational, and even to date we still perhaps hold the largest portfolio in the region for climate finance in terms of accessing climate resources from the Green Climate Fund.
Right, the funds from there, and maybe P.S. Johnson, you can come in here. The funds from there, what do we have to show for it here in Grenada? Or what are some of these funds used for thus far? And probably what plans do we have going forward?
First of all, I just wanted to, I think both of us would have inadvertently omitted to mention all of these resources that we are talking here about are grant resources.
Grant funding.
Grant funding. Yeah,
so we don't have to pay it back.
No, so we do not have to pay it back. So that's why I'm saying that's why it is so important for us to maximize the use of those resources. So basically, my colleague was speaking about the GCF resources. I think to date Grenada would have accessed about $61 million of those resources. And you may have heard about the G-Cruise project.
Yes.
That's one of the major climate resilient water sector project here in Grenada. So some of the resources have been allocated towards that project, the G-Cruise project. And we also have an integrated physical adaptation and community resilient project that is through the Enhanced Direct Access Pilot Project. We are also using the resources for that project. And there's another project that we are doing in conjunction with Grenada, Dominica, Antigua through resources also accessed through GEF financing.
There has been a lot of talk in the past about renewable energy, of course, the generation of electricity from wind and solar. I don't know if any consideration was given to the surrounding waters around us, but any part of that fund, can it be used to sort of further speed up that process, that of getting more and more people involved in the use of solar energy?
Yeah, sure. And thanks for that. Be it the GCF or other agencies that the government have been working with, World Bank, etc. A number of projects have been piloted in regards to solar energy. It is found that is one of the first energy types, the technologies we will go for in terms of renewable, but it's not the only. Grenada have also made significant investment in geothermal energy and so on. But just to answer the question directly, there are a number of projects that was already implemented and are in the pipeline. The solar PV projects would not go away. It is absolutely one of the, as I said, one of the first options you will go for renewable energy on different scales, whether it is at the personal level, whether it's at the community level, whether it's public government, public goods. At the personal level, I know there's the facility at the Grenada Development Bank that they encourage it. They have developed products for persons who would want to solarize their homes, etc. You can speak to the folks at the Grenada Development Bank to find out how you can get that incorporated in your dealings with them. They also have it for businesses as well. Small and medium-sized businesses can also access those resources as well at the Grenada Development Bank.
How can they do that? What's involved in getting that? Because I was about to ask you about the private sector, whether or not they can access funds from that facility.
Oh yes. The Green Climate Fund has a private sector facility, specific to the private sector facility. But that here we're talking big private sector, developed world private sector, right? In Grenada's case, we do have some activity already, resources already secured from the Green Climate Fund, and is dedicated to the private sector. So for one, PS mentioned the direct access project. Those resources are there at the GDB for persons wanting to do climate work. Private sector companies can access those resources. For GDB is a bank, so they will have some, and they wanted it to be revolving, so they have put on a very small loan fee on it, nothing more than maybe 1 to 2%, just to keep the resource revolving, and that it continues beyond the project life cycle, and that is there for the private sector. Under the Grenada climate, the GCRUISE project, the Grenada Resilient Water Sector project. There's also a component of that project, again, piloted through the Grenada Development Bank. We refer to it as a challenge fund, where we challenge specifically now the private sector, dealing with accommodation and dealing with the agriculture sector. So for technologies, for water efficiency, water efficient faucets, rainwater harvesting, the reuse of grey water, etc., that kitchen water and so on, there are technologies out there. If persons in the accommodation sector want to tap into that, they can. And the challenge is that the bank, on a grant basis, meet the amount you are able to put up, right? So and your amount could be in kind as well, right? It counts to your portion of it, and so there's resources available. Those resources are not to be accessed; they're sitting in the bank for you to access at this time. Similarly, for the farmers wanting to procure equipment for irrigation and other technologies that you will need in farming and agriculture in general to enhance your production or to maintain some level of solid production, given the events that we are facing now, the harsh events. There are resources there at the Greener Development Bank to be accessed. Right.
Very interesting that you mentioned that, because as you mentioned bank, I also know that, for example, Republic Bank, they also have that kind of facility where people can access for similar projects like your solar systems and stuff like that.
Definitely.
So this is very, very, very interesting. The technological sector, this is very interesting. Have we, or are we able to reach people, or in terms of their abilities with technology to come in and access those things? Or people just come in? What kind of response do we get from the public?
To be honest, from the review I've seen of being appraised of, I would say, I think the agriculture sector, there's a greater uptake there. I'm not sure the reason why, but maybe we just need to do a little more work with the friends in the hotel sector and so on, and accommodation. Maybe we need to expand it beyond hotels and guest houses. Maybe we need to include Airbnb, perhaps, and persons doing those homestays, just to make sure that we increase the uptake.
Right. So we're just getting to the point where we want to engage our listeners. And P.S., I'm coming back to you. So we're going to open our telephone line for a few minutes. If there's anyone of our listeners, viewers, who have any questions that you would like to ask our guests, you can do so. The telephone number is 440-1252. So you can give us a call if you want a little bit more information as it relates to accessing some of these funds. Are you part of an organization and you want to know a bit more? You can give us a call now. The number is 440-1252. So we only have 10 minutes allocated for that. So you have to make your call quickly and keep it as short as possible so we can accommodate as much as we can within that time. All right. So the number again, 440-1252. In the meantime, P.S., I want to come back to you. We mentioned earlier as well, the whole issue of biodiversity. I want to talk a little bit about for example, our coastal regions. We know there's a lot of erosion taking place there. We've lost some of our mangrove in some areas. Any focus in that area?
Well, Godfrey, I'm very happy that you mentioned that, because that was one of the proposals that we have just submitted to Jeff for consideration, the added protection of the mangrove and so, but also you may notice that even on the East Coast, there are a number of derelict boats that we also have to look at and to clean up those areas. So we have looked at a comprehensive project that would allow us to do all of the cleaning up and then also to extend beyond the mangrove and so forth and the replanting. So this is once we are, in fact, the project had gotten a pass grade for the first round. It's now gone on to the second round. So we are very hopeful, and I think all indication that we would be able to unlock those resources to finance that project.
As it relates to while we're on the coast, the big problem we have now, the sargassum. And because we have to clean up, that in itself can create a problem. Anything there in that area?
Well, I am aware, because I just actually came into the ministry, but I am aware, in fact, there were 21 contracts, small community contracts that we have executed in the recent past to basically allow us to commence some work in that area. It is not problem-free, and we would not have covered all of what needs to be done, but I know we would have started the process, and we intend to continue in that regard, again under the same Jeff financing.
So the Jeff financing and the GCF are the main funds that we can access. And I just want you to just go back a little bit, just to be clear, in terms of accessing the funds. Grenada has to put forward its proposals to these organizations, and this is how, well, through the process, this is how we access the funds.
Right. So just to be a little bit more specific, so each country will be given an allocation to start off with. So they say, okay, Grenada, I am going to be allocating, I'm just giving you the figure, $8 million, okay? And so the money is there. So these are money that are readily available. You don't have to go and negotiate to get the money. All you need to do is to provide a winning proposal that you can justify the use of the resources within the boundaries of what the proposal should meet. So each proposal should meet what they call an integrated program. Okay, should fall into an integrated program, whether it means clean ocean, whether it means green city. I'm just giving some of the example. And once your proposal meets, so basically there's a call for proposal, and you have to submit the proposal. It goes through the various balancing and check to make sure that it is climate smart, etc. And then you are able to access the resources.
Right.
So a minimum of $2 million. The project can go as high as $8 million.
Right. A big one. There's concern, of course, with sea level rise. Our beautiful Carnash could be under threat.
Right.
Is there anything in any proposal for funding to do something in that area to make it climate smart, and we can mitigate against whatever climatic conditions that could be going in that direction?
This is very interesting because that actually came up in the conversation in the last heads of government meeting held in Grand Anse. In fact, studies have shown in the next 50 years, if the climate continues in the manner in which it's going, we will probably lose the carnage.
50 or 30?
30 to 50 years, we could probably lose the carriage and even lose Grand Anse Beach. So I am happy that you're saying that, because these are the type of conversation that we really need to have in terms of where are we going with these major projects to ensure that the next generation can benefit from the luxury that we are benefiting from in terms of the ambience of the carnage and the ambience of Grand Anse Beach. So these are the conversations that we need to take to the next level.
Right.
Indeed.
Sandway?
Yeah, as PS said, it is an area that is already under the microscope, even in the tongue of Grenville as well, with the rising sea levels. We have done some preliminary work, pre-feasibility studies, etc., in terms of what can work as a solution for these areas. Along the southern corridor, the Grand Anse area, that tourist belt there coming into the carnage, and the St. George's City as our main economic, to secure our main economic activities. So it is not something that has not been looked at to date. It's just a matter of picking up the work from where it's there and move speedily. We don't have a lot of time, but I'm sure with the commitments we've gotten from P.S. Johnson and our dear Minister James, I think we will get some action soon.
Right. This is important, because I ask because it's so. I mean, I recall maybe about 2 governments ago, there's always been this talk about the carnage and the threat of the carnage, and are we moving fast enough? Remember, science has shown that the climate is changing faster than anticipated. I hope we're not waiting until we start walking in the water, like places like Teddy Bass, and so before we start taking action.
So basically, to answer your question, are we moving fast enough? And the answer is no.
We're not.
Because, as you rightfully say, science has shown that the climate change is running faster than we are. So definitely we need to really pick up space and pick up scope in terms of ensuring that we move faster to address the challenges associated with climate change. So we definitely need to pick up some pace.
Right. Maybe finally, in terms of the other economic sectors, I know we mentioned agriculture quite a bit. There are other sectors that can be, seriously impacted by climate change: health, tourism, and so on and so forth. Are you working with some of these other sectors in terms of, like when you do your proposal, are these areas also taken into consideration so some level of financing can go their direction in helping to mitigate and adapt to climatic changes?
Definitely. In fact, as we speak, we are about to conclude a project with the World Bank, and actually the World Bank would be accessing some of these financing under GEF towards that project, where we'll be looking at, in the first phase, 10 government buildings that we will be putting on some renewable energy. So we are using that project as a pilot, because you know what we have been experiencing in the recent days, the heat.
Oh yes.
So we are looking at some smart technologies that will be financed under the project for those first 10 government buildings, with a view of reviewing it and then expanding that via a second phase to include other buildings. So we are actually looking at that. It would not just be Ministry of Finance, buildings in the education sector and the health sector will also benefit, as well as I think 1 or 2 statutory bodies are also going to benefit. So we are moving in that direction. In fact, as we speak, the World Bank mission will be here in another week's time to conclude on that project.
Okay, this is fantastic. Yeah. Well, I mean,
the responses, the government response has been multifaceted, right? Mm-hmm. If you look in the strategic documents like the National Adaptation Plan or the National Development Contribution, you will see the priority sectors there. Right, so we're not working by guess here. Right. Okay. There are sectors that are prioritized and actions that are already prioritized to raise projects from. As PS said, there's not just the agriculture and the tourism, there's really resilient infrastructure. Mm-hmm. There's a significant need to look at infrastructure and how we build resilience into the infrastructure or public infrastructure. The education sector, and many other sectors that are prioritized in these strategic documents. Time perhaps wouldn't allow for us to go through all the actions planned, mm-hmm. And the kind of resources to date. We've raised a good amount of resources, PS, but as you can see, the situation on the ground keeps changing, yes. And there's a need for more action and more resources. But there are targets guided by the scientists and the experts who say if we do these measures, we can feel safe that we have a resilient island.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. It's a pity we're out of time, but rest assured, I'll be calling you again.
Definitely.
Because it's very important. To address climate change, financing is very, very important. So we need to have that discussion again as it relates to financing for responding to climate change. As we wrap, P.S. Johnson, your key takeaway, what one thing out of this discussion this evening you would like to see, or at least our audience, viewers, go take with them?
Okay. Basically, I would like to say climate change is running faster than we are. So we definitely need to borrow from the words from Honorable Mia Mottley, Prime Minister of Barbados. So we definitely need to pick up space and we need to pick up scope in going forward. And climate change is really challenging to us. And in order for us to address the challenges, finance is key, finance is available. So let's take on a whole of society approach to access the finance. Communities, NGOs, private sector, and government, let's all do our part to ensure that we create a greener space for sustainable Grenada.
Thank you very much, PS. Mr. Antoine?
Just to support PS and say I fully agree with those words, but I would want to leave you here though to communities. Please contact the Jeff Small Grants Program. The email address gefsgp@grenada@gmail.com. You can call the telephone number, cell number 416-1425, or you can call the landline 435-7445. Call the Grenada, the Jeff Small Grants Program, call the GDB and the other institutions that are on the front line for climate action in Grenada. Do your part in making Grenada more resilient.
Thank you very much, Mr. Antoine. And of course, also special thanks to our viewers, our listeners, our friends on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. We thank you very much for staying with us. Just to add to that, a very special thanks to our partners, Republic Bank, Classic Lighting, Spice Isle Imaging Center, Budget Marine, Hubbard's, and Grenada Paper Products. Also, very special thanks to Mr. Leon Charles, who is one of our producers, Dr. Spencer Thomas, Ms. Martina Duncan, and of course, special thanks to Ms. J. Van Mebick in Barbados, who have helped us significantly. My closing words: climate change is real. We must act now. Have a good night, everyone.
Our Climate Reality is made possible by Republic Bank, We're the One for You, Classic Lighting, Budget Marine Grenada, and Spicer Imaging Center.